What's the most what the F moment with your siblings? When I was younger, I was playing outside when I heard my little brother giggling like a maniac around the other side of the house in the backyard. I went to see what was going on, and he was gleefully peeing into my dog's open mouth as the dog was lapping it up while dangerously close to his doodle. As a bonus story, I'll tell you about the time my brother almost caught me smoking when I was in high school. There is a barn across from a small pond by my house, and one winter my friend Murph and I were sparking up in the upper floor. We hear the dogs get let outside and someone mumbling, and we peek out the window so that we can keep tabs on whoever was outside now. My little brother is walking toward the frozen pond with a pickaxe and then begins to break apart the ice. After he's chopped it up a bit, he crouches down like a goddamn monkey, takes a chunk of pond ice and begins eating it while looking back and forth to make sure nothing sneaked up on him while he ate. It was like watching the gosh darn Nature Channel. In fact, okay, let's talk about my stepbrother for a second. Not many stories I can make into something of length, so I'll just do snippets. He brought a blank Uzi over to my house and asked me if he could fire it out the room of my window. I told him, no, it's going to sound like you're firing a fricking gun, and he did it anyway, and then he came back later saying, I told him we were popping balloons, with a smug smile on his face. He once offered me $100 to blow up a weather balloon in my room until it popped. I declined. In the dead of winter, he propped a ladder against my roof and then army crawled up the icy shingles with 2 butter knives as climbing tools, and then began pounding on my window to let him in 'cause it's cold outside. He bought one of those hoverboards, lit 2 smoke bombs, and rode it while spinning in circles as I filmed him until he started coughing so bad he couldn't keep going. He regularly buys designer clothes like polo shirts and Nike shoes and the like. These clothes usually look stupid as hell, like the white polo he brought with a giant tree with a sun behind it. Often giving them to me after a week, 'cause, nah man, I don't want these, what was I thinking? One time he asked me to drive him to Plato's Closet to sell off 2 duffel bags full of stuff like this. I'll never forget his gangster swagger walking back to my car, and him proudly announcing, man, I got $20. He once was trying to convince me to help him put a trampoline on the roof so he could use it to jump off said roof into the pond nearby. Took a lot of convincing to explain that he wouldn't make a jump that far. Afterwards, he wanted to have the trampoline on the ground instead. Then I had to explain how the best case scenario he simply misses and hurts himself, but more likely he'd go right through it and break his legs. The roof is on the 2nd story of the house, on that side of the yard. I think a few of us can sympathize with having a younger sibling that we were about 50% sure would grow up to become some sort of mass murderer or in an asylum later in life. This is just a particularly striking example. My sister used to sleepwalk into my room and just stare at me with a soulless murder glare. It was scary. This one time I was asleep and my little bro walked in and just got into bed with me. I was like, bro, what are you doing? This isn't your bed. To which he responds, I think I know what I'm doing, and fell asleep instantly. I said, F it, and went to sleep in his bed. I was winning a watermelon eating contest. My sister, realizing she could never beat me, picked up her half-eaten watermelon and bashed me in the back of the head with it, knocking me out cold. Did she actually use your loss of consciousness to catch up and eat more watermelon than you? Because if not, technically, you still won because you were leading prohibitively at the suspension of play caused by the injury. I haven't reviewed the most recent update on the official international watermelon eating competition rules, but I will put this in my pocket and start calling it a win. I've shared this before, but it seems applicable here. One time I walked past the bathroom to get to my room. My brother had left the door open and was standing on the toilet seat, waiting for me to pass. As he sees me, he exclaims, "This is how a man takes a dump," makes a loud noise and drops a thick log right in front of my eyes. I had just finished riding my bike home from a friend's place to see my mum pull into the driveway. Out of the other side of the car, my sister's head popped out. She had been off to college and I didn't expect to see her. My first thought, which I openly said because I was a little crap, was, why's sis home? She get knocked up in college? Out steps my very pregnant sister. It was a rare double what the frick moment, as I was surprised to see her that fricking pregnant, and both my sister and mum were shocked at my accurate joke guess. And inappropriate guess, to be fair. Sort of similar thing happened to me. I texted my cousin on her 20th birthday, "Congratulations, you avoided teenage pregnancy." Turns out she had just found out she had gotten knocked up and hadn't told anybody yet. Studies have shown that incidents of teenage pregnancy drop off significantly after age 20. My brother, directly after the funeral, stole our uncle's war medals from his bedroom. His wife found out, told me and my mother, and then my mother made me sneak them back in. I like that this is as much of a mother story as it is a sibling story. Good stealthy evasion of the family shame, Mum. My girlfriend's brother called. They never talk, it's a distant and strained relationship, and she looks at me like, why the F is he calling? I joked, he's calling to tell you he's getting married. She tells me to shut up. A few minutes later, she comes back, he's getting married. I joked again, I guess he knocked this girl up. She says no. A few days later, the pregnancy announcement is up on Facebook. Sometimes jokes hit too close to home. Now we've got to sit through an awkward wedding pretending everybody else is happy about this. They're not. To clarify, the couple to be married is happy about it, or so he insists. Nobody else is happy, though. Everybody feels like this is a huge mistake, especially considering this girl has gone out of her way to meet his mother once, living in the same town, and they both live with their parents still and have known each other less than a year, and been dating less than that. Maybe we're all just cynical buttholes, and these two have the key to… Who am I kidding? I give it 6 years. I was out on a car ride with my dad and we arrived back at the house at like 3 a.m. My front door opens straight into my kitchen and I throw open the door expecting an empty kitchen only to see my brother butt naked standing in front of the sink. I screamed, "Why the F are you naked?" He scrambled back to the shower. Apparently he was mid-shower, his back hurt, so he went to the kitchen to start heating water for a hot water bottle for his back, and just stopped to have a snack or something while waiting for the water to boil, all while leaving the shower running. My dad still laughs about it. And yes, 3 a.m. My family keep odd hours, especially back when we were at school and it was summer break. My sister logged into my RuneScape account and finished the Dragon Slayer quest that 10-year-old me with limited playtime had spent months to gear up for. I was devastated. I was sitting in front of the television one day when my sister walked up behind me. She threw a little bouncy ball at me, but it bounced off my head, hit the television, bounced back off my head, and back at her. She was so surprised that it was such a perfect shot that she decided to try again to repeat it. I was so happy that my sister was playing with me that I sit there as she throws this ball at my head, trying to repeat the shot for like half an hour. Once I was taking a leak and my brother barges in, starts peeing and yells, "2 players!" My family decided to spend Christmas in Mexico at an all-inclusive resort after I had moved across the country for work. My siblings and I were sharing a room. One night, my brother gets in late from drinking. I wake up and see him standing over my luggage. I say, "What the frick are you doing?" He says, "Taking a frickin' leak." He was. I was furious. He never really did apologize. My sister cut my hangy-down thingy that connects my upper lip with my gums with a pair of scissors while I was asleep. The internet tells me this is called a frenulum. We were not the best of friends growing up. One comment reads, "Ah!" I knew I'd find a logical response here somewhere. Watching TV with my older sister. She gets up, walks over to the house phone, and picks it up. "Hello?" she said. "Yes, he is. One moment." She covers the microphone. "It's for you, insert name here." Crazy. I didn't hear it ring, I think to myself. I walk to the phone. My sister begins savagely beating me with the corded phone. For no reason. She concocted a ruse just to beat me with the phone. Interesting. Is she single? When I was 16, I went with my family to visit my grandfather at the old folks' home. Well, I ended up striking up a conversation with another guy there who had an Irish accent. After a few minutes, my then 7-year-old brother asks this guy, "Why are you talking Mexican?" He just laughed, but I was so embarrassed that I didn't know how to react. When I was about 4, my parents told my brother, aged 13, to take my sister and I for a walk for an hour. I think my parents wanted some private time. He took us for a walk, all right. We were gone for 12 hours. My parents were frantic and the police were looking for us. God knows what he was thinking, but he's always been a bit of an idiot. My sister discovered her inner thinking voice when she was about 4. She came downstairs into the kitchen, totally distraught, and said, "Who is talking to me all the time? Everywhere I go, someone talks to me about the things I do, but I can't see anybody." We're all taking it for granted here that the sister in question has an inner monologue and isn't in fact crazy or hearing ghosts. Came downstairs from being asleep. Living room in disarray. Blood drops are on the floor and I see little flecks here and there on the wall. I said to my girlfriend, "What the frick happened?" Concerned someone got injured or something. Your brothers had a scissor fight, she tells me. A scissor fight. Yes, those two fricking brain surgeons took up craft scissors and went at each other in my living room, while my no doubt horrified girlfriend watched in shock and awe. They were gone by the time I woke up, thank God, but the evidence was hard to miss. I was this close to beating M. Bison in Street Fighter 2, and my big brother pulled the plug because he wanted me out of the room to smoke herb with his buddies. A case of justifiable fratricide if I ever did hear one. What an idiot. That's setting you up perfectly to rat him out to your parents. Well, strangely, and by an odd coincidence, he was found out the very next day. Told my sister to come inside for dinner. She was hitting balls down our driveway with a field hockey stick. She immediately turned and swung full force into my face, breaking my nose and deviating my septum. That was 20 years ago, and she won't talk to me because I've wronged her in the past. B-word, I can't breathe out my right nostril. My brother and I used to share a room when we were kids. One day, I woke up and saw my brother standing in the middle of the room trying to mount a toy gun on his member. Hey, sometimes you need protection. Probably when I was 9 and my older brother was 13. We were home watching TV one day during the summer. He was flipping through channels and stopped on an episode of Donahue that featured a male stripper right in the middle of his routine, with an audience of middle-aged women cheering. He put the remote down and excitedly said, "Oh, we're watching this." He's now married with 2 kids and is aspiring to be a Baptist minister. I tell this story anytime I get a chance to embarrass my brother. I was about 9, making him about 6. Thanksgiving dinner at our grandparents' house. We were both in the kitchen together, just the 2 of us, each with a slice of pumpkin pie. My little brother grabs the salt shaker from the table, slowly unscrews the cap, dumps the entire shaker of salt on his pie, and eats the whole thing, making eye contact with me the whole time. He had this look like he knew what he was doing, so I didn't question it. 20 minutes later, he's chasing a cousin through the hall. He dead stops, says, "Uh-oh," and projectile vomits all over the walls and floor. He is descended upon by adults asking him what the matter is. His response? Too much salt. I was the only one who knew what he meant. It was pretty awkward when he knocked on my bedroom door to give me condoms when my boyfriend was over, but also very nice of him to be worried about me like that. The "what the F" moment comes from his girlfriend later that day, sharing with me, "I know you probably don't want to know this, but your brother's eggplant is huge." I super did not want to know that. F you, Shannon. My poor brother shares your pain. He had a party at our place when I was 18, and me and my then boyfriend were there, and then boyfriend gets really drunk, walks up to my brother and says, "Hey, I'm probably gonna sleep with your sister tonight." Spoiler, he then went upstairs and passed out in bed, alone. My brother still makes fun of me and cringes at that to this day. When I was young, about 13, my family was leaving my grandparents' house after a weekend visit. It was a long drive home, about 4 hours. I had to pee really bad and my parents hated stopping. So I discreetly grabbed my empty Mountain Dew bottle and emptied my bladder into it. It wasn't hard to hide being in the back seat of an SUV. Well, I put it under the seat after I was finished, and when I got home, I totally forgot about it. My parents cleaned out the car later, and my thought was they threw it away. Nope, they had placed it in the fridge thinking it was a half-full bottle of pop. Well, I only figured this out because my sister took a drink out of it and screamed. She said it must have been old and been in there forever because it tasted horrible. I was horrified, but I took it from her, fake smelled it, and threw it away, saying, "Yeah, that's disgusting." I have never told her, or anyone for that matter, what really happened. My little sister looked at me dead-eyed once and told me, "You have demons in you. You need to get them out," or something along those lines. I asked her what the frick she was talking about, and she just kind of went back to doing her thing. The girl was like 8, so I don't think she was trying to troll me. Overwrote my save file to start a new game. You son of a working woman, I will never forgive you. My little brother did the bottle glitch over my megaton hammer in Zelda Ocarina of Time. Replaced the hammer with a bottle. When I couldn't get past a certain section of the game due to having no hammer, I confronted him and asked why my hammer was a bottle. He swore he didn't know why, but I knew. I always knew. 20 years later, he brings it up and says that he did it on purpose because he was mad at me. Little siblings destroying your save games feels like a very 90s and early 2000s kids phenomenon. Perhaps someone can enlighten me if it's still very much a thing today? Seems less likely now we're out of the world of memory cards and most gaming systems have user profiles. So let me know in the comments. My favorite story is that I once went outside at 1 a.m. to watch a meteor shower and my brother's bedroom window faced the backyard. I don't know why he was up, he was maybe 12 at the time, and I hear him open the window and shout, "Who's out there?" I reply, "Just me," and he says, "Oh, I'll be right out." My brother gets out of bed at 1 in the morning, puts on some shoes and comes outside and says, "So, what are we doing?" The kid was forever down for late-night adventures, apparently. I'm surprised that this resonated with so many people. This is my favorite story about my brother. He's a great kid now, 21, and I'm always proud of him and his adventurous spirit. My sister spoiled Dumbledore's death for me. She read The Half-Blood Prince in 24 hours, asked me if I wanted to know what happened. I said no, she told me anyway. I'm still mad. F you, Laura. My sister complaining bitterly about, "Why do you get a new car in your own apartment?" The answer was, "Because I work for a living," which apparently was a deeply offensive thing to say. Go figure. How old were the two of you at the time? Well, that's the sad part. I was 32 and she was 30. One of my sisters and I shared a room. One day she showed me her jewelry box, which was full of her petrified toilet paper wrapped poops. She then proceeded to show me how to do it, by laying toilet paper across the toilet seat, and then said I could save my poops too. Yeah, I took a pass on that one. My brother severely hurt his right leg in a work accident. His doctors tried to save his leg, but ultimately he ended up getting it amputated. So before he had it amputated, he got around on crutches, or on a day where he was in pain, a wheelchair. During this time, I moved back home to help him get around and do things he couldn't do. One thing he loves doing is building computers and video games. I would take him to electronic shops and follow him around as he bought games and stuff for his computer. We would go shopping like this more than once a week. I never minded because he's family and we get along really well. We got to know a lot of the staff at these shops. One time I was looking for some DVDs on my own, and one of the guys we'd gotten to know comes up and asks me if I needed help. And then he says, "You are a pretty cool girlfriend. You never seem bored or annoyed that your boyfriend spends so much time with his computer." I was so shocked I didn't reply right away, but then I made a super disgusted face and said, "He's my brother." Cue super awkward moment which doubled when my brother came by to tell me we could go and called me Boo, which is a nickname I've had my whole life that my brother gave me. It was so embarrassing. My mum was recently divorced and had a friend with a daughter my age. Let's call him Mark. The daughter and I were both 14 and got a lot of time together, so obviously there was some mutual experimenting. Well, it got really weird about 2 years later when my mum and Mark announced they were getting married and I was going to have a new stepsister. I came home from college for Thanksgiving, and the very first thing my brother says to me is, "If you think about it, 'Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned' is just a fancy way of saying, 'Sorry, Daddy, I've been bad.'" Then, during Thanksgiving dinner, he looked down, patted his stomach, and softly said, "Hey babe, ready for round 2? 'Cause I sure am." Then he got up and got another helping of turkey and mashed potatoes. Not the most WTF, but one we still like to joke about. My grandmother generally sends us all cards at Christmas, but a few years ago we all got our cards in the mail and things didn't quite match up. My oldest sister and I got the usual cards with the sweet, heartfelt messages from our grandma. We still call her the $100 grandchild when we're headed to family gatherings. So, are we all agreed that the sister took the money from the other cards to up her amount? Siblings are devious, and all it takes is a bit of steam to get inside the envelope. My brother came home after his first week of college, snuck in the house while we were sleeping, unpacked and went to bed and woke up in the morning acting like he had never gone away to college. Refused to talk about it and acted like we were all crazy when we did. He was 10 years older than me, so I was only 8 at the time, but I remember my parents being very worried. He still won't admit or acknowledge that he ever went to college. Used to keep my green herb up in one of my ceiling tiles when I was a teen. Sister finds it, invites 15 friends over, and they cumulatively smoke an ounce of my stash. Get home to find my box with about a bowl left, and then I'm the one who gets in trouble for having Mary J in the house. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, linked at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot, linked in the description too. Either way, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.